Michael Jackson, the king of pop, tragically passed away in 2009 at just 50 years old.
Fire paramedic 33, what is your emergency?
Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir. We have a gentleman here that needs help. He's not breathing. We're trying to pump him, but he's not.
Okay.
Sir, if you can please.
We're on our way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
The Los Angeles coroner's office discovered multiple benzodiazepines and the stimulant ephedrine in his system. It was acute propofol intoxication that led to respiratory arrest and became the primary cause of his demise. Throughout his life, Jackson battled severe insomnia. His personal physician, Dr. Murray, administered propofol to him for 60 continuous days, a clear violation of medical guidelines. Jackson had grown dependent, unable to sleep without this powerful sedative. When administered in high doses, propofol induces euphoria. In lower doses, it merely mimics restful sleep. It's a deceptive sensation. One might feel refreshed upon waking, but it's far from genuine rest. Now, let's delve into the final 24 hours of Jackson's life. In June 22, 2009, Murray administered 25 milligrams of propofol, lorazepam, and midazolam to Michael Jackson. On June 23, 2009, Murray only gave Mr. Jackson lorazepam and midazolam, and did not inject propofol. At 1 a.m. on June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson called Dr. Murray, complaining of dehydration and insomnia. At 1:30 a.m., Murray gave Mr. Jackson a 10 mg tablet of diazepam. This did not help Mr. Jackson fall asleep. Murray then injected 2 mg of lorazepam 30 minutes later. Dr. Murray stated that he was monitoring Michael by using a pulse oximeter connected to Jackson's finger. This device measures oxygen saturation in the blood and is a standard of care when administering sedatives in a variety of clinical settings. At 3 a.m., Murray gave Mr. Jackson 2 mg of midazolam. Mr. Jackson remained awake. Murray then gave a subsequent 2 mg dose of lorazepam at 5 a.m. At 7:30 a.m., Dr. Murray injected Michael with 2 mg of midazolam. Mr. Jackson remained awake and repeatedly asked for and demanded a propofol injection. At 10:40 a.m., Murray injected 25 mg of propofol mixed with lidocaine. According to Murray, Mr. Jackson finally fell asleep. Dr. Murray then left the bedroom to use the restroom. He stated that he was away from Mr. Jackson for no more than 2 minutes. Upon his return, Michael Jackson was unconscious and apneic. In the interview, Murray did not mention what Mr. Jackson's oxygen saturation was at the time, or if the monitor had been alarming. He then pulled Mr. Jackson's body onto the bedroom floor and initiated CPR by himself. Murray stated that, at this time, he gave 0.2 mg of flumazenil to try to reverse the effect of the lorazepam and midazolam. He called Mr. Jackson's security detail by cell phone for help. They did not respond. Murray then stopped CPR, left Michael Jackson's bedside, and ran downstairs to ask Jackson's chef to send Jackson's eldest son in to help him. When Murray returned, he continued CPR. It is unclear how long he was gone for. The security detail finally arrived shortly after and called 911. Despite frantic attempts at resuscitation and a call for emergency help, by the time Jackson reached the UCLA Medical Center, it was too late. Despite the close bond between Jackson and his personal physician, akin to brothers, and the substantial monthly compensation of $150,000, the tragic outcomes could not be avoided. Murray's misguided attempts to transition Jackson from propofol to benzodiazepines backfired. These drugs, targeting the brain's GABA receptors, acted as a suppressor, effectively silencing neuronal activity. For most, a few milligrams might induce deep sedation. However, Jackson's system had acclimatized, rendering these traditional remedies ineffective. The brain's communication network collapsed, resulting in the tragic cessation of vital functions. In reality, propofol didn't do anything wrong. It's actually a pretty fantastic drug when used correctly. It's a game-changer in intravenous anesthesia. The issue lies with those who administered it. Propofol shouldn't be used outside of hospitals and requires constant supervision by an anesthesiologist ready to act in emergencies. In 1973, an anesthesiologist named John Glenn worked at the Imperial Chemical Industries in the UK. He was on a mission, sifting through various alkyl-substituted phenol compounds, trying to develop an anesthetic better than thiopental sodium. He set out with some goals. The drug should kick in almost instantly. Once the anesthesia's done, patients should wake up quickly, without feeling drowsy. Minimize post-anesthesia dizziness or nausea. It should be injectable into veins without needing patients to inhale any anesthesia gases. This meant the drug had to be water-soluble for injections and fat-soluble to cross the blood-brain barrier. The drug's action should be similar to thiopental sodium, working on the brain's GABA receptors. After much research, Glenn discovered Propofol. It was 1.8 times more potent than thiopental sodium, faster in action, and didn't leave patients feeling drowsy afterward. This breakthrough was published in the British Journal of Anesthesia in 1980. Everything sounds smooth. However, clinical trials in 1981 were halted due to allergic reactions. The pharmaceutical companies believed there was an issue with the chemical structure of the drug. But Glenn argued that the problem lay in the carrier oil, specifically castor oil, causing the allergies. He urged the companies not to abandon Propofol's development. After refining techniques, they produced a new Propofol emulsion. This new formula, made of soybean oil droplets, provided a stable environment for Propofol. The emulsion also contained egg yolk phospholipids, glycerol, and sterile water. Visually, it looked like milk. After regulatory approvals, this Propofol emulsion became a hit. But it had a drawback. When administered intravenously, patients felt a burning sensation in their veins. To address this, it's often used alongside the local anesthetic lidocaine. Propofol acts on the GABA receptors in the brain, causing the chloride ion channels to open. At this point, chloride ions flow in abundantly, leading to an increased negative charge inside the postsynaptic neuron. The neuron then enters a hyperpolarized state, essentially a shutdown mode. It becomes less likely to produce action potentials, less prone to firing up. In this state, it becomes dormant. It stops transmitting information to other neurons, stops giving commands, and becomes unresponsive to incoming signals. Even if it receives signals, there's no reaction. Interestingly, when some neurons enter this state, others become more active and excited because they've had their brakes released, operating at a faster pace. This results in a sense of euphoria and anti-anxiety effects. Meanwhile, the neurons that have shut down produce an anesthetic effect, making the individual insensitive to pain. This state is akin to being asleep, but it's not genuine sleep since there's no rapid eye movement sleep involved. Such a sedative state is perilous. Bystanders can't easily wake the affected person regardless of shouting, shaking, or using cold water. If this shutdown effect continues, with more neurons shutting down, it weakens breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure since the brain can't send signals to the body anymore. This disruption signifies a life-threatening situation. Most drugs based on this principle have this downside. Michael Jackson's demise was due to the rapid action of Propofol, compounded by the concurrent use of several drugs based on similar principles. Before anyone could react, Jackson had stopped breathing. Additionally, the delay caused by his personal doctor's indecision in calling for help, what could have taken 5 minutes extended to over an hour. Thus, his death was inevitable. There was no choice. A generational superstar fell at just 50 years old.